Hello everyone, thank you for joining our Getting Started with FreshBooks tutorial. It's the first step towards easy invoicing, expense tracking, and keeping your books organized. We help you with your billing needs and also make sure that all of your information is well organized and readily available from any device since it's all on the cloud. So let's start off by logging into our FreshBooks account. This is an account that I have created called Why Not. I can simply log into my account by typing in my unique URL and entering the username and password that I have set up. And now you can see my spiffy new FreshBooks account. So as you can see, my company is Why Not, my very own grape crushing business. I'm just starting out, so what we need to do first is set up our account so we can start invoicing to make sure we get paid for our hard work. First things first, let's brand our FreshBooks account with the company logo so it looks professional. We allow all customers to brand their FreshBooks account to give you that professional look, and so to the outside world, it looks like your very own brilliant invoicing system. So let's upload our logo at the top where it says FreshBooks, and I'll just get you to click on Upload Your Logo. And then from here, you can just click Browse from your computer to find that file. So here's my logo, just ready and waiting. I'm going to click Open on this, and along with my logo, you will see that FreshBooks will also grab the primary color of my logo, in this case blue, for all tabs within my account. So next, let's move on over to the Settings tab. It's right up at the very top right. So I'll just get you to click on Settings, just up here, and then what we're going to do is go right down to Permissions. It's more or less right in the middle of this sub-tab here. And then I'll just scroll down ever so slightly so you can see what's going on. Here you can see a list of different tabs that we can toggle on or off for staff members or clients, giving us the ability to control the permissions for users and clients. So staff members right now are able to see all the people, invoices, estimates, and expenses in your account. However, if you did want to give them access to some of the reports in your account, you can just click on this box. And if we scroll down just a little bit further, you'll see that your clients are able to access invoices, estimates, and projects. So we're happy with this. Let's just click Save right down at the bottom. Now I also want to set up a payment gateway so that my customers can pay me online. FreshBooks conducted some research that indicates that customers that use payment gateways get paid 11 days faster, which really helps with cash flow. So let's click on Online Payment. It's just one to the right of Permissions. We need to get an account with any one of the payment gateways listed here, such as PayPal or Authorized.net. I'll scroll down a little so you can see the full list. Once you've established your account, you can link your gateway to your FreshBooks account. In my example, I have set up my account with PayPal Payflow Pro. With this setup, my customers will now have the option to conveniently pay me by credit card when I send them their invoice. Simply fill in the information requested, select the cards you will accept, and just click Save right down at the bottom. Now let's move on to the Email sub-tab so that we can edit some of the FreshBooks email templates to say, well, what we want them to say. So I'll get you to scroll right back up there, click on Emails, just one to the right of Online Payment. The email templates that you see are the ones that FreshBooks provides you with. However, you can edit the text on any one of them to customize the emails that go along with your invoices. Specifically, let's look at late payment reminders. So I'll just get you to click Edit just to the right of these late payment reminders. In this section, you can see that we can set up to 3 reminders for any single invoice. So what I have to do is go to Reminder 1 and enable it by clicking this box right here, and then select the number of days I want it to go out after I sent the initial invoice. So right now I've typed in 15, so this reminder will go out 15 days after the initial invoice was sent to them. I can also edit the email body if I like. In this case, I've just said, "Hi, first name. This is a friendly reminder that your invoice is now due." These reminders will help you get paid faster. I can follow that up with even, dare I say, a second reminder at 30 days or even a final reminder at 45 days if I wish. And when I'm happy with that, I can just click Save. And now that I've got my settings arranged, I'm going to enter my very first customer into the system. I'm going to enter their information under the People tab. So let's first just close this, and then we're going to head over to the People tab, which is just second from the left in the main heading. Now this is where we can build our client profile as you would in your email address book. We can enter as much information as we want, and you can always come back here in case you need to look up their contact information for future reference. If you wanted to make a brand new client, you could click on this green button right here, but since I've already got one ready and waiting, I'm just going to click Edit over on the far right of that same row. My very first client, as you can see, is Toodles Smith, and you can note the yellow tabs that are just directly below. So the first is the currency of the client, second we've got the language, and third we've got whether we want late payment reminders on or off. I'm going to leave them on, but if you've got any key accounts, you can turn them off just in case you think it might annoy them. So let's see what other information we can set up, just scrolling a little bit further. As you can see, the email field is the one mandatory field. However, I find it does look a little bit nicer on an invoice if you also fill in the details as to the address, etc. Right down at the bottom here, we've got the internal notes, which is kind of like an internal CRM section, where you can add a note about your client that only you or your staff can see. And once you're done, you just want to click Save, as always, right down at the bottom. And so there you have it. We have just made our very first client, Toodles Smith. So now what do we need to do? Well, we did just do some work for her, so let's create an invoice so we can get paid. As you can see, there are some options up top, but let's just head over to Invoices anyway. So Invoices being the third from the left tab in that main heading. Now there are two different invoices that you can make in FreshBooks. You can make a single invoice over here with New Invoice, or you can make a recurring invoice. That's what I'm going to show you really quickly right now. So we'll click on Recurring, second from the left in that sub tab, and then we're just going to click on any of these giant green buttons to create a new recurring profile. As you can see, it always defaults to today's date, and I'm happy with that, so I'll leave it as is. And then you want to select your schedule. Very frequently, monthly is the schedule, so I'll go with that. But let's say your client wanted to do payment installments. So let's just make it 3 monthly payment installments from that client. You want to select your client. Here we go. We've only got the one. And then you can just scroll down and add your invoice contents. And then once it looks nice and pretty, this is going to go out in a mirror image. So every invoice is going to mirror image what you've set up in this profile right here. So when you're happy with it, you just want to scroll down to the bottom and click Save. Now without doing that, because I don't actually want to make a recurring profile, let's go back to the Invoices tab. We'll just click on the far left of that sub-tab. Yes, we want to leave this page. And here we go. So let's make a brand new, just one-off invoice. Clicking on that green button. So let's pretend we did some work for Toodles and we want to get paid for it. And let's enter some billing information. First things first, we got to choose our client as it suggests. Thank you so much. You will see these bubbles pop up just when you're doing things for the first time, just to help you out along the way. And so we'll select our singular client, scrolling down a little bit. And if you look to the right-hand side, you'll see that you can enter your own invoice number over here. And you can choose to start your invoice number really anywhere you'd like. If you don't want your client to know this is maybe your first invoice, or maybe you had another invoicing system before you came to FreshBooks and you ended at, say, number 73, well then, hey, we can make this number 74, and then FreshBooks, the next time you go to make an invoice, will know to increment by 1, making it number 75. Now, if I worked with POs, I'd have a reference number right here to input, but I don't, so I'm going to leave it empty. As well, I could put in a discount field, so let's pretend I want to give a 10% discount to my client because she's my first customer and I want to make sure she refers me to others, maybe for a birthday of a friend. Now, as suggested by our handy-dandy little pop-ups, we do want to describe our work. What are we billing for? So here we can select, let's make a new task, in fact. So we're going to click on this field right here, this task field. We do have one ready and waiting, but let's make a brand new task. So let's pretend my new task is event management. At the last party that I was at, I was managing the event, so that's my task name. I'm not going to put in any time entry notes because I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory, but I will put in my rate of $95 per hour. Once I've done that, I can click Save Task, and then you just want to put in that hours field. So I'll say I've spent 5 hours, let's say, on this task, And as you can see, FreshBooks has done all the math for me, which is pretty handy dandy. So now we're going to move down to choose an item. Items are the goods that you charge a specific rate for. So as you can see here, right back. So we've got our different barrel sizes. Let's say it was a large barrel, big party, lots of people, and some grapes. I'm going to add some grapes to go inside that barrel. And now you can see that we are missing a certain element, and this is the tax portion of the invoice. So I'm going to click on the tax. And now just keeping in mind that my client lives in Florida. So let's add the sales tax for Florida at a rate of 7%. So we're going to put in the name, Florida sales tax, rate 7%. I can add as many taxes as I want, and if I had a tax identification number, I could enter it here, but I don't, so I will leave it blank. And now I can just click Save. Now the tax is ready to choose from within the drop-down menu under Taxes if I were to click again. Further down the page, it's asking me to spell out the terms of service. My terms are the exact same for every customer, so I'm going to set them up under the Set Default Terms, that blue text. And I'm going to keep things simple and just say payment due within 15 days. Lovely, and then I'm just going to click Save right here. And in the Notes Visible to Client field, just over on the right-hand side, that's a place where I can add a personal note. So I'm just going to write, "Thank you for your business." At the bottom of the invoice, you have 3 different options to choose from. First, I can save this invoice as a draft if we aren't quite ready to send it out. Second, I can send it via email to the email associated to the client, but if we're ready to do so right now, we can even send it by Snail Mail. Now, Snail Mail is a ground mail service FreshBooks provides to send a paper copy of your invoice. Every FreshBooks account starts off with 2 stamps, so if you want, you can even try it for yourself and see how nifty your invoice looks when you receive it by mail. For now, we're just going to send this out by email, so I'm going to click the Send Email button, and you will see a message pop up. If I wanted to add any extra info in the email body, I could do so, but I'm happy with what it says, so I'm just going to click the Send button right at the bottom. Now let's find out what our customer Toodles sees on her end when she receives our invoice. I want to show you all the information they can access on their end, just so that you can sleep at night with the comfort of knowing that all is secure. So all we have to do is go back to the People tab, again that's second from the left in that main heading, and we're going to click on Sent Emails. It's just on the far right in that sub-tab. And so what this will do is it's going to provide the history of every single email that you have sent out of FreshBooks. In our example, our very first invoice sent out is one that we just created for Toodles. So I'm just going to simply click on the date over on the left, and you'll see what she received on her end. 2 Toodles from me with a subject line and a short message. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to copy and paste this link that you see in the body of the email into a new browser. So I'm currently in Chrome, so I want to move over to Firefox here. And again, just paste that link right into the URL bar up top. And there we have it. The customer gets automatically logged into the FreshBooks system. Now this is a portal system that also provides great technology on your customer's end. For example, Toodles can see a copy of any invoice we have ever sent her, and she can also see her payment history as well as any unpaid invoices. This makes things very convenient for your client. She also has a really cool account statement. I'll click on that and show you what it looks like. And now you can see an account statement here of any credits or payments made on her account, and she can easily print it right here from FreshBooks. But I'm interested in seeing the invoice here that we actually created for her. Invoice number 74, I believe. So let's click on that and see what she sees. And same as on the preview we saw, except there is a big difference. There's a big green button that says Pay Online. Because we synced up our PayPal account with FreshBooks, Toodles is able to pay easily with the click of a button and enter her credit card information just like that. And that's it. That's how professional and easy the system is to use. Now let's go back to my Why Not account by closing this window. And let's get back to business and do some more for our grape crushing business. So let's go to the Invoices tab, again, third from the left in that main heading. And we're going to look for the invoice we had initially created. You can see over to the right under Status, it says Viewed, which tells us that she did see the invoice. FreshBooks tracks everything that happens to an invoice for you, from creation to final reconciliation. Now let's say that Toodles sent us a check for this invoice instead of paying online. I want to show you how to enter a payment against an invoice once the check arrives. Simply check the box to the left of the invoice number, in this case number 74, and then click on the gray Enter Payment button above. That will move us to the payment screen where we can enter a manual payment. If the client has paid the entire invoice, you can check off Paid in Full, that little box just below, and the amount will populate in the payment box. Here you can also indicate the method of payment as a check and indicate the check number if you'd like, so you can have great records. You may also add a note about the payment if you wish, and this is very important, so it lets you write information to keep you organized. The check number, let's say, is number 321, and if you have any other kind of payment info, any other notes that you wanted to type in here, just do so. It only takes 2 seconds, and we do generate reports where you can find this kind of information later on. So there you go. Our payment info is set, so let's save that. Now back on the invoice dashboard, you will see that the invoice will now have a status of paid. Nicely done. Let's take a look at this invoice one more time by clicking on the invoice number on the left-hand side. So when we open it up, you can see here that it tells you you are viewing a paid invoice. Now if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see something called an Invoice Autobiography. FreshBooks tracks everything that happens to an invoice and creates this little audit trail that you can look at any time. When it was created, when it was sent, when or how many times it has been viewed, and when the payment was made or entered by you. And now that we know how to create an invoice, you may also be interested in how to create an estimate for quotes that you may be sending to your customers before the act of the actual service or sale. We can create these estimates, or what some people call quotes, within FreshBooks. Our estimates template looks almost identical to our invoice template, and for good reason. Once you've submitted an estimate, your client can accept the estimate online, which is your green light to begin planning the work. The coolest thing about FreshBooks estimates is that they can be converted directly into an invoice whenever you're ready to bill for the work. Let me show you how to do that. I'm just going to click on the Estimates tab, as you've seen, and then I'm going to click on the box just to the left of the estimate number. Then I'm going to click on the gray button above that says Convert to Invoice. And there you have it. With just 2 clicks, your conversion is complete, and you can now review that estimate as an invoice and make any necessary changes before sending it out. Next up, we've got the Expenses tab. Here you will want to enter all of the expenses associated with your business so that you can get an accurate view of how your business is doing. One of the great things is that you can set up to 3 different types of expenses. I'll walk you through each one. The first type of expense is a recurring expense. Let's say Why Not needs to pay rent for their office space, and that works out to be about $1,200 per month. So I'm just going to put in the amount. I'll leave the date at today, and the vendor is going to be my landlord, ABC Property Management, let's say. Now I'm going to categorize my expense, and we'll put in rent. Love it. And we can just enter in some notes of monthly rent. If you mark off these monthly expenses as recurring, FreshBooks will make this expense entry into the system for you each and every month. And that's one less thing for you to remember and one less journal entry for you to make. Now clicking Save on this, we're going to move along to the next type of expense that you can enter. And that's an expense that you would make on behalf of your client so that you can recover it from them. So let's say we spent $50 on some decorations. So we're going to put in that $50 amount, and Party Place can be our vendor this time around. Now we're going to select a category first of supplies, and if you click on that first drop-down menu, you'll see that the secondary menu has equipment. So I'm just going to click on that. Now just directly below category, you'll see that it says assign to client. So I'm going to click on that box, and as soon as I do that, it drops down the client drop-down menu. So I'm going to select Toodles. And last but not least, I'll leave some notes of decorations for party, let's say. Now the next time we set up an invoice for our client, the system will remind us about that expense, and once we invoice for it, FreshBooks will automatically switch this unbilled status to the term billed. And thirdly, we've got our final type of expense, which is just a simple business expense. I'm going to add an expense for, let's say, $300 for a new barrel. Now, this is actually a cost of doing business, and I don't have a client to bill this to, so I'm just going to add that expense. I'm going to add in the amount, and the vendor will be, let's say, Bob's Barrels. And the category this time around will be supplies, just that first tier, just a little bit different this time around. And sure, let's leave some notes, who doesn't like to be organized, of buying barrels. Now, a cool new feature recently added to FreshBooks allows you to snap a photo image of a receipt and upload it directly to the system. And now that we know how to add expenses and create invoices, let's move on to the Reports tab, where we can get a complete summary of all the information we have logged into FreshBooks. For example, let's look at the profit and loss statement. This is your money in and money out report. Other reports that can be generated from your FreshBooks account include expense invoice details report and a report on taxes collected. Remember, all of these reports can be easily exported as an Excel or CSV file. Let's see how FreshBooks helps out with logging hours that we later need to bill to our clients. The time tracking functions allow you to record the hours worked on your client's projects. You can then generate an invoice directly from your project timesheet. To properly set this up, we first create a project that we can enter our time against. So let's add a new project. I'm still doing some work for Toodles, so I'm going to add a project called Toodles Smith. Now, I do want my client to see summaries of dates worked and tasks logged, but if you don't want to give your clients that option, you can simply uncheck this box. Now, the most important part of setting up a project is selecting the correct billing method. Here you will see that you have 4 options to choose from for the project. First, we've got hourly staff rate. This applies if you charge for your time based off of an hourly rate. On large projects, you may have several people logging hours towards the project, all potentially at different rates. FreshBooks can accommodate that. Next, we've got the hourly task rate, and that applies if you charge different rates for different tasks. I charge a lower rate for my event management than I do for my event setup, so this is the billing method that would work best for me. Project rate applies to any project where you charge the same hourly rate for all tasks regardless of the complexity of the task or the seniority of the staff that has completed the work. Your friends and family rate would likely fall into this category. Finally, flat project amount is pretty self-explanatory. No matter how long or how many hours it takes you to complete the work, the cost will be no higher than the negotiated project amount. In this example, I'm going to be selecting an hourly task rate. Many of the tasks that I perform have different rates, so I'm going to set up a few tasks for this project. I simply click on Add a Task and create it. My first task name is going to be Transportation. And so we'll just put in a name of transportation here. And though it's pretty self-descript, we'll put in transportation of goods to event. And I do want this applied to all projects. Yes, I also want it billable on an invoice. And we're just going to give this a smaller task rate of $75 an hour. So you just want to make sure you click Save Task. And let's add a couple more tasks. So we're now going to select Event Management, as it's something I've already made within my account, as well as that other task that I made earlier called Event Setup. Beautiful. And as we scroll down, we see team members. Now, I'm a sole proprietor, and on this project, I don't have anyone else working with me. On large projects, I often bring in a friend of mine, and she can log hours on those projects, and FreshBooks can accommodate that as well. So now that we set up the project, we just need to save it, and we're all set up. And now we're ready to log our hours. I've done some work already on this project and I've not logged my time, so let's put those in. To do that, we simply move over to the timesheet, which is just on the far left of the sub-tab. Still under time tracking though. And we're presented with a calendar. And so let's just say that earlier last week I attended an event for my client. So we'll click on the 17th. And then we'll select the project name, which is just going to be Toodle Smith, just to keep things nice and easy. And we'll select a task of event setup. That makes the most sense to me. And let's just say it was 5 hours of event setup. And we'll just leave it at that for now and just click on log hours. And we'll just try one more day. We're just going to click on the 20th of June. And we'll just say that same project, but now my task is going to be event management, just so we get the hang of it. And this time was a long one. This one was, let's say, 7 hours. Beautiful. And now we can just click log hours for that. All of these hours are classified as unbilled hours because we haven't added them to an invoice just yet. Let's add just a little bit more to this project. So we'll click on, say, the 21st. And we'll just make this task transportation. And let's say hours 3. Nice and easy. And we'll click log hours for that. And so now let's create the invoice from our timesheet and send it to Toodles. All we have to do is stay on the time tracking tab and click on Generate Invoice. This takes us to a screen where we can choose the client as well as the project and add a date range if we need to, which is handy for projects, especially if they run over several months. Now in this case, I want to bill for all of my hours, which is the default if you don't choose a date range. Down here, you can select the amount of detail you want recorded on the invoice. I'm selecting detailed here. I want to also show the following fields for all entries: project name, task name, entry date, and notes. I don't want to allow them to see the team member name because I'm the only team member in this project. It's a bit redundant. Maybe if we scroll down a little bit, we can see add expenses. Yeah, let's add an expense. If you recall, we made one earlier in the tutorial, so we do want to add that expense. And this is going to bring in the expense for what we purchased earlier. So if we just click now on Create Invoice down at the bottom, and now you will see we have got an invoice. Now remember, we've got complete control of the invoice and we can review and make any necessary changes before we send it out. Here under the items list, you'll see the expense that we added earlier. Now I'm going to mark up that expense because I did take time out of my day to shop for it. So let's mark it up 50%, let's say. Note that my terms are still there as a default, and here I can add a note. Something nice and personal. Again, hope you had a wonderful time. Thanks for the business. And we're just about done, so finally we just want to make sure we click on Save as Draft over at the bottom left. You could also click on Send by Email or Snail Mail. Now I'm going to send it by email, so let's try that. Sure, why not? Click on Send by Email, and I'll show you the preview of what that looks like. So what you can do is just click on Preview Invoice, and here it is, all nice and professional looking. So thanks for turning out to the FreshBooks Get Started tutorial. If you've got any further questions, you can absolutely give us a call anytime at 1-866-303-6061. Or if you prefer, you can send us an email at support@freshbooks.com and you'll get a very quick response to your query. Thanks again for joining us and have best of luck with your business.